Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Mary, seat of wisdom, Saint Joseph, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, so I will make a commentary of the text of Joseph Stalin. I told you, probably he did not write that himself, but he signed. Anyway, you know, Joseph Stalin was a seminarian, huh? So, you know, you can become a saint or a Marxist. Okay, so the two influence, we saw that last class, two persons especially influenced Marx. He fired back with his materialism, everything is matter, and Hegel with his dialectica. So Karl Marx put aside from Hegel his idealism and keeps his method, the method to attain the truth, dialectic. He put aside the interpretation of science of Feuerbach, but he kept the idea of materialism, and also with that the idea of atheism. And he put that together. So we have two main things. First, we can summarize the philosophy of Marx in two things. First, dialectical materialism. You know, it takes two other, put them together. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. So, and philosophy is a dialectical materialism. That means materialism is a foundation of his philosophy, and the method to know the reality is dialectic. And after that, the ideas for Marx are never separated from reality. We call that praxis. Praxis. It is the reason why his dialectical materialism is applied to history. And we call that the historical materialism. That means the interpretation of history from a materialistic point of view. Okay? So let us go to the text. The first, in fact, in the first part, he rejects Hegel. We will say contrary to idealism. When we speak about idealism, here we speak about Hegel. Contrary to idealism, I affirm, Marxism affirms, you know, the way to understand the text. It is the same pattern, considerably. So if you oppose Hegel, because for Hegel, the idea produced the reality, the world, the reality. To be taught is to exist. That means that the source of reality are the ideas. But Marx is saying no. It is the reality that makes the ideas. Not he opposed completely the position of Hegel. So the ideas are not influencing economy, are not influencing politics, are not influencing art, but it is the reality that this economy is influencing the way of thinking. You know? So the source of reality, of truth, is not in the mind of man, it is in the reality. And for him, the reality is matter. But matter, concretely, when he speaks about that, he speaks about economy. Okay? So, for Marx, it is the material world that reflected the human mind. My ideas are the reflection of the world. You remember last week when we saw the superstructure and the infrastructure. And the superstructure, the ideas, philosophy, art, all that are the are the reflection, the reflect of the foundation. The foundation is economy is matter. Huh? Okay, so and transform into form thought. In fact, the source of ideas are matter, are the thing, material reality. Okay? That is the it is opposed to Hegel, because for Hegel, the source of reality is ideas. For Marx, the source of reality is matter, a special presentation we call economy. Huh? Okay? Now Feuerbach. Feuerbach, in fact, put Hegel on his feet. Hegel was floating, and Feuerbach and Hegel also both. They will furnish the foundation of Marxism. The foundation of Marxism is materialism, but a materialism scientifically known. So, not the kind of materialism. What was lacking to Feuerbach was the scientific approach of materialism. His materialism was not scientific. And and Marx said, no, we must have a scientific materialism. That means our materialism must be united with science. So everything now must be scientific. So I told you when I received my student from Congo, Brazza, in all the paper they wrote to me for class in philosophy, all the time, like pepper on the meat, on the soup, they put scientific. We thought, but scientific was everywhere, because they were told that scientific must be present in Marxism. There is no Marxism without a scientific approach. And what is that scientific approach for Marxism? Is sociology. Sociology is the way we know society in a scientific way, not as an amateur, but as a professional. Okay? Bon. Now I go to the text now. The first, it is Marxist dialectical method. So Joseph Stalin, on the first page, the second column, you have that here. Okay, you followed your class. Your text, Marxist dialectical method. So the pattern is always the same. Contrary to metaphysics, Marxists affirm that dialectic. Okay. So all phenomenon, the first is the determinism. Everything is scientific. So if it is scientific, it is determined. When we study capitalism, we study the same thing, no? Economy is a science, and everything is determined. Therefore, there is no place for ethics, for religion, for intervention of the state. We have to follow the laws of economy. The same thing here. Both are twin brothers. Both are materialist. Both are determinist. Both say that the economy is a pure science, determined, like chemistry, like physics. Okay. So the second is the continuous change. So the change is essential in reality. Reality is essentially changing. That idea is not new. Is not new. It existed in the time of the Greek. Remember who said that everything is changing? Heraclitus. Heraclitus. Everything is changing. So change for Heraclitus was the essence of reality. And it is the same for Marx. Marxism, the essence of reality is change. What is that? It is contradiction. What is that? It is taken from dialectic here. Everything is in opposition. Everything is changing. Okay? That is very important. So for them, being is becoming. To be is not to be the same, is to be other. That is the big consequences, because if being is changing, is becoming, therefore becoming, change is necessary in any society, in any system, economy. So here is the foundation of revolution. Revolution is based on the fact that change is necessary. We progress only through contradiction to change. Okay? So consequently, change is essential in society. In fact, it is not wrong to say that change is an important characteristic of society. When you study sociology, one of the first characteristics of any society, it is change. Not a single society can be immutable. For a simple reason, first, that people are every day getting older, no? And some die, some are born. So continually, as any society, family, even the church, everything, every society is changed. So characteristic of society is changed. And at that point of view, Marx is right. But be careful, it's not the essential of a society, but it's a characteristic attached to any society. Why? Because the members of a society are necessarily changing. Because we live in time and space. We begin the class here, and when we finish after 1 hour, we'll be at 1,000 miles. No? We turn around the world in 24 hours. There is 25,000 miles. That means every hour we are moving from 1,000 miles. So everything is changing, okay? The second now, it is that quantity can produce quality. Quantitative changes produce qualitative reality. That means if matter is changing, if economy is changing, you have a new kind of society, you know. So quantity can produce quality. Don't forget, we are in a materialistic environment, and everything must be explained by matter. So matter, quantity, because characteristic of matter is quantity. So you have a lot of quantity, suddenly you have a living. You have a frog, you have an ox, you have a cow, you have a man, you know. That is that interpretation is used also by Darwinism, materialistic evolutionism, that think that the leap, we progress from matter by leaps. Okay. The third is contradiction is inherent in nature. Contradiction is inherent in nature. That means we progress by opposition, by fight, by struggle. If you want to become an adolescent, you have to disappear as a child. No? If you stay a child of your life, you never become an adolescent. If you continue to be an adolescent, you cannot become an adult. So to become an adult, you have to destroy your adolescence, you know, by opposition, by opposition. Okay? So it is the theory here, and that contradiction imply some leap. You have, if you go to page 2, go to page 2. On the first column, you have the natural quantitative change leads to qualitative. Contrary to metaphysics, dialectic does not regard the process of development as a simple process of growth, where quantitative change does not lead to qualitative change. That is the position of Hegel. It's also the position of St. Thomas, of Aristotle. But as a development which passed from insignificant and perceivable quantitative changes to open fundamental changes to qualitative changes. And that is made rapidly, abruptly, by leap, by bound, by jump. Suddenly we have matter, and suddenly we have living being, flower, animal. And suddenly we have man, you know. So the progress is made from the lower. The quantity produce quality by leap, by leap. That's exactly the theory of Darwin here applied to society, the same thing, okay? And if you go to the second column, at the bottom of the column now, contradiction inherent in nature, okay? So contrary to metaphysics, dialectic holds that internal contradictions are inherent in all things and phenomena of nature. For they all have their negative and positive side. You know, you see that in chemistry. You have electron, they are negative. You have proton, they are positive. So nature is said is made by contradiction. By contradiction. I continue. A past and a future. Something dying, something developing. A struggle between their opposition. A struggle between the old and the new. And finally, what happened? The old must disappear to have a new thing, you know. And to disappear, but that means it is contradiction. And the way we see that soon, the way will be through a revolution. That change cannot be done without a revolution. If you go to the next page, first column at the top, so the dialectical method, therefore, holds that the process of development from the lower to the higher takes place, not as a harmonious unfolding phenomena. So for them, the progress is not linear, is not a line, a straight line like that. The progress is by up and down, you know, up and down, up and down. It is by contradiction. Thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Again, thesis, antithesis, destroy the thesis. If you have a new one, synthesis. And that synthesis has become a thesis, and we'll have an antithesis, and finally a thesis. That is the way the world progress, and that will be applied to historical, because the history is the reflect of matter. So what happened in material reality will happen in the history of man. Why? Because man is also matter. You know? So the law of matter are applied to man. Okay. Okay. So that immediately after he make an application to history. No, it is not. Stalin does not wait for the end here. Immediately he make an application of the history of society. You know. So in fact, all the phenomena in society are depending on one another, and they are depending in a contradictory way, by opposition and by synthesis. Every revolution is an antithesis against a thesis. You have the bourgeois, but the workers are fighting the bourgeois. And we have a new society, the communist society, the perfect society. You know? But the perfect society at this time become a thesis. So there will be an antithesis, you know. We never finish, huh? Because for them the progress is made not by a continuous growth, but by contradiction. There is a part of truth in that. A part of truth. Look at yourself, in your own experience. When you were three years old, you passed by a kind of period of opposition to your father, to your parent. You say, no. I have a nephew recently. My sister said, you know, he said, no, period. No, 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 oppose. And at 16 years old, he will oppose, you know, because he wants to be himself. And that is necessary. A student, a child who does not have those crises, he will not be himself. He will be his mother, or will be continually his father. is not be, is to be oneself and must detach from, you know. That's a part of truth in that. But they cannot explain everything through that. Huh? Especially the contradiction is necessary. The problem, if you want to understand the contradiction, you have to go back to logic. You remember when you study logic, we saw contradiction and contrary, no? Contrariety and contradiction. Contradiction. The water is hot. What is the contradiction of that? The water is not hot. But for Hegel, in fact, when he speaks about contradiction, he speaks about contrary. It's not the same. It's not the same. That we must be aware of that. So when they speak about contradiction, in scholastic philosophy, in common sense, it is not strictly contradiction. It is contrary. For example, water, hot water and cold water, they are contrary. They are not contradicting one another. Okay, but that is a parenthesis. We speak about that next class. Huh? And you apply that to the economic system, so we can interpret the history through that kind of contradiction. Huh? You can start from the time of the Roman with the slave, and the slave become the master, and after the master, etc. In the Middle Age, after. So, if you read the Communist Manifesto, Karl Marx and Engels have many pages about that. And one they speak about the history through contradiction. In fact, they apply here. They apply that conviction that history is made by contradiction. And contradiction in the Marxist language means revolution. A revolution. Okay? Okay. Now, so another thing important, I spoke to you about praxis. We must never forget that in the thought of Marx, the praxis and theory are intimated link. We don't have a pure theory. We don't have a pure practice. Both are intermingled, they are together. For us, we distinguish theory and practice. But for Marx, theory is linked necessarily with practice. It is a part of truth in that. Think about the gospel, what Jesus said. It's not enough to say, Lord, 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 I love you. It is to do something, you know. In fact, but what is important to know, for Marx, it is a necessary link. In fact, the ideas have no values as long as they are not put into practice. So we call that praxis. We have pragmatism. That means we judge a philosophy in capitalism and judge the value of a thing to the success. But if praxis is the intimate relation between theory and practice, the ideas and the reality. You understand why it is excessively important in Marxism to form the children to Marxism. When I wrote my thesis, one of the responsible of my thesis asked me to study 3 patterns of education. So I studied Dewey as a Western pattern. I studied Maritain as a middle way. And he asked me to study Pistrak. Pistrak is a pedagogue of the Communist Party in Russia. Pistrak. That man wrote a book. That book was for all the teachers in Russia at that time, USSR. And the central goal of education is to form revolutionaries. Because the society cannot progress if we don't have a revolutionary mind. So the theory must be into practice continually. And we put that into practice through revolution. In 1957, I remember I received in my class in Montreal a child, 13 years old, from France. His name was Aldo Gargioni. I don't remember many, but I remember his name. He was 13 years old, and he told me, he said, brother, I am a communist. He was a communist. Imagine the Catholic school, he was a communist. And he told me that, well, he lived in the south of France, near Monaco. And he told me that every Saturday, he went to the party for 2 hours of study of Marxism. I don't think many Catholics will go every Saturday 2 hours to study catechism to prepare the confirmation. They insist that is very important because we cannot learn, we cannot do what we don't know. And I think it is one of the big mistakes Catholics we do. We don't insist enough on the formation of the mind through the study of the Bible. It is our weakness. We cannot have only ideas. You know, in fact, many things we can take from them. We cannot separate our faith from our action. It is exactly what Marx says. He does not speak about faith. But in fact, to be a Marxist, we must be a man or a woman of faith. To believe that there is only one reality matter. And to make sacrifices. To sacrifice football, to go to the Marxist catechism. And that's, you know. And they insist on that. It's the reason why the first thing they did when they conquered a country, they suppressed every philosophy, every religion to teach only Marxism. Is that true? Huh? You must know Marxism. So you know Marxism better than I. But you don't put that into practice. So you are not a real Marxist. Okay. So the consequence of that, capitalist system must disappear. Capitalist system is only temporary. Okay? And there is also a new class of citizen, and that new class of citizen is the proletariat. The proletariat. Proles in Latin means fertile, produce. For example, many children in the family. In fact, proletariat was attached to family having many children, you know. Those who have many children. So the proletarian were the worker, but at that time the worker had many children. So we call that the proletarian, those who produce children. Word for word is the meaning of that here. Okay. So you go to number. So okay, page 3. Well, if you look at the second column, you see every paragraph begins by the word ends. Ends, further, ends, further, ends. What is that? The application of the theory. If you accept the theory, ends, therefore, you must be, for example, everything depends on the condition of time and space, or etc. At the bottom of the first column, if the dying away of the whole, etc., then it is clear, the two last that there can be no immutable social system, no eternal principle of private property. Okay, private property is not eternal, it must change. We must pass from private property to common property, to communism, you know. No eternal ideas, you know. So, consequently, the capitalist system can be replaced, etc. After that, hence we must not base our orientation on the strata of the society who longer has a power, I mean not on bourgeoisie, but on those who are the future. And who has the future? It is the proletarian population, the worker. So we must not now base our economy, our life on the capitalist, but on the worker. That is the biggest difference. Huh? That is characteristic of Marxism. So Marxism does not found, the economy is not founded on the wealth of the rich, it is founded on the work of the proletarian, the worker. You see the difference, huh? Why? Because we don't found our economy on the richness, the wealth of the rich, because every mean of production will be in common, you know. So what is producing? Who is producing is not money, it is the worker. So the new class, the class that must run the business, is not the capitalist class, it is the class of the worker, or the proletariat. I continue a little bit further. Huh? One must look forward and not backward. So we, as a Marxist, we should not regret the past, but always to look at the future. To look at the future. Huh? Alors, etc. Then it is clear, in paragraph second, huh? The last sentence, it is clear that revolutions made by oppressed class are a quite natural and inevitable phenomenon. Is natural and inevitable. Not only is natural, conform to nature to fight, but it is, we cannot avoid that. That means the revolution is necessary. That is very important, because every time Marxism took the power, there was a kind of revolution. They sent many people to jail, they sent people to Siberia, 16 million in Russia, 60 million in China. That is here. The foundation of that is here. Because we must not work with the old gang, we must work with the new gang and the new people. And the new people are not the capitalists, they are the worker. Okay? In fact, Marxism is the exaltation of the worker. If you go to Russia, maybe they changed now because they are no more communist, but when I was there in 1972, I visited Hermitage. Hermitage is one of the most beautiful museums in the world. It is in today St. Petersburg. In the time it was Leningrad. And when we visit that, we see at that place, you read, Roblev, the triangle of Roblev, the Trinity of Roblev. Everything is there, but it was not very light, and you know, it was not, we have difficulty to see. But when we visit the modern painting, workers, workers, workers everywhere, it was the exaltation of the worker. And that is conform to their philosophy, huh? To their philosophy. Okay? Well, that it is the first year. So now, the philosophy now, the strictly philosophical, what is that? The first is materialism. The dogma of faith is materialism. That means there is only one reality, matter. And everything must be explained from matter. So you have that on page 4. Contrary to idealism, Marxist philosophical materialism holds that the world is by its very nature material. That is affirmation. The world is essentially material. What is the essence of the world? It is matter. Matter. Okay? So we must explain everything from matter. We cannot refer to something outside of matter. Okay? So you can read the text here. Multiple phenomena of the world constitute different forms of matter in motion. Even the thought of mind is, according to Feuerbach, and is taken after that by Marx, it is the secret Lenin, it is the secretion of the brain. You have secretion in your mouth, saliva, your thought are the secretion of the brain. They have to find an explanation, you know, and everything comes from matter. So, and it continues just after that, that is a law of development of moving matter, and finally, with the laws of movement and matter, stands in, that is very, very important, the last sentence, stands in no need of a universal spirit. You remember Hegel, who is God for Hegel? Is the universal spirit, the synthesis of thought. You see, we don't need thought, we don't need universal spirit. And he will say also, who runs the history is not the mind of man, is not the great person in the history, it is matter. A matter run by workers. Those who make the world, the history, are those who work. And the first value is to work. If you work, you transform. If you're a capitalist, you don't work. You are seated on your chair and you are, or in your yacht, and you are enjoying life. And the worker is the one who makes you, makes your money give something, you know. Okay, so the second idea is the objective reality independent of our consciousness. But for Hegel, you remember, my idea influenced the world. But for Hegel, no. For Marx, no. It's the world that makes my idea. So the world is objective. At that point of view, he says exactly the same thing as Aristotle and St. Thomas. He is a good Thomist. Because we affirm that our knowledge comes from the object, no? So he says exactly that. Why? Because he opposes Hegel. Because for Hegel, my idea comes from my own mind, my own intellect. Okay. So he continues. The Marxist philosophical materialism holds that matter, nature, being, is an objective reality existing outside and independent of our consciousness. That matter is primary, since it is the source of sensation, idea, and consciousness. Of course, for St. Thomas and Aristotle, we are not determined by the object. Yes, we are determined, but we react. But for him, it is only the object that makes my knowledge, you know, because I am material, you know. Okay. At the bottom, after that, the brain is the organ of thought. And therefore, one cannot separate thought from matter. So that means ideas are material. Everything is matter, even my ideas. Because my ideas are produced by matter, by the brain. No? In fact, here it is an epistological approach. Because he is talking again also another philosopher we call Kant. You remember Kant? Huh? Mm-hmm. Kant, they say we cannot know the reality. We know only, we cannot know what is under the reality. We know only the phenomena. The phenomena. We cannot know the world, etc. completely. And here he opposed to that. We can know the reality. Why? Because it is the reality that make my ideas. You know, my knowledge is a real knowledge because the reality imposes its existence to my mind. In fact, my mind is the fruit of the things. It's the fruit of the things. Okay, so my knowledge is linked with my sense experience. A large part of truth, but we accept the truth, but not the exclusivity, because we need also an intellect to abstract. Okay? Well, you will read the text. I go to the second column, C. So the words and his laws are knowable. Contrary to idealism, deny the possibility of knowing the word and his laws. Think about Kant, for example. On the contrary, materialism holds, in the middle of the paragraph, holds that the world and its laws are fully knowable, that our knowledge of the laws of nature, tested by experiment and practice, is authentic knowledge, having the validity of objective truth. And that there are nothing in the world which are unknowable, but only things which are not as yet not known. You know? So that is the affirmation of the capacity of man to know. And in fact, that is kind of epistemological defense of the capacity of human mind to be able to know the reality. Not only we know the reality, but it is the reality that imposes to us our idea. Our ideas are the fruit of the external world. Because my ideas are also material, and they are formed by the material world. You know? In fact, he cannot speak about abstraction. Because to abstract immediately is to detach from matter. Is to affirm capacity of the existence of something outside of matter. For them, you know, in fact, there is no difference between sensation and intellection. No, why? Because everything is matter. Everything is reduced to sense knowledge. Even my brain is material producing my thought, and my thought is the fruit of matter. Okay? You see, Marxism is essentially materialist. Essentially materialist. Okay. Now, if you go to page 5, you have some consequences of that, many consequences. Page 5. I go to, if, just the first column, 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth paragraph, okay? If the connection between the phenomena of nature and their interdependence are laws of the development of nature, you know, for Marxism, everything is linked, and everything is determined one by another. So, if I want to explain something, I must refer to other phenomena around. Okay, continue. It follows, too, that the connection and interdependence of the phenomena of social life are laws of development of society, are not something accidental. Here it is about determinism. There is nothing accidental. Everything is determined. For example, if there is an explosion of gas, then it is determined by something. And there is no effect without a cause. But the effect is material, the cause will be material. And we can explain that. Don't forget, materialism is scientific. That means everything is determined. You know, is the reason why, you know, when you put water on your stove on fire, you are sure you will have hot water. Because it is determined. It is a law of nature. Fire produces heat. And a refrigerator produces cold, you know? You know? Okay? So I continue. Now you have a series of many, 6, at least more than that, application to that. You will see. First, hence, social life, the history of society, ceased to be an agglomeration of accident. What is accident? Free decision of man. For the history of society become a development of society. According to the regular laws, and study of history become a science. That means you have to study society as a science. Every fact is the necessary cause of the other fact. There is, in fact, here is the negation of freedom of man. And for Marx, the great men in the history have not importance. What is important is economy, it is matter, it is that. And it is the worker. Okay? Secondly, hence, the practical activity of the party of the proletariat, a communist party, must not be based on the good wishes of outstanding individuals. That means not the interest of one by one, but not on the dictate of reason, universal moral, no ethics, but on the laws of development of society and the study of these laws. And the development of society is the development of matter, production, economy, etc. So further, the world is knowable, and our knowledge of the laws of development of nature is authentic knowledge. So it follows that social life, the development of society also is knowable. Here you understand the importance of sociology. Historical materialism. And when it is studying today, historical is called sociology. We study what's happening today in the society. That is important. Why? Because what happened in the society are exactly the same thing what happened in the nature, in physics. The laws of physics and the law of society are the same. Not exactly the same, but they have the same determinism. So in fact, we are determined. Where is freedom? You understand why in Marxist regime, freedom is not the first value. It cannot be a first value, freedom. Because you are determined by economy, by production, by circumstances, by the environment. If you introduce real freedom, you destroy Marxism. So Marxism cannot prone freedom. You understand why there is a kind of dictatorship in that kind of system? Because everyone has a tendency to do my own interest, but we must be one together, and we can be not together for the common good only through force. It is one the reason why in the communist region they have a so powerful army, a so powerful control. If you read the history in the Soviet Union, there was the system of 10, every 10 people they have a spy. In Moscow, when they build the houses, they build big houses, but a common kitchen. You have, for example, the house was built in like a star with 5, but a common kitchen. Why? To control. If you attack against the government, against communists, immediately you are sent to Siberia. No freedom because of that. In science, there is no freedom. You know, are you free to see that the fire will make your water hot? No. So it's the same in economy, in production. There is no place for freedom. Next paragraph, page 5, second column at the top. And the science of history of society is a science. Next one, hence, the party of the proletariat, by casual motive, in its practical activity, by casual motives, but not by accidental motive, but by the laws of development of the society. In fact, the worker, when he works in a way determined. You know, he has no choice. In here, it is the negation of self-interest. But, in fact, self-interest existed also. We cannot suppress that. But theoretically, there was no self-interest. Next paragraph. Socialism is converted from a dream. You think about Proudhon. We spoke about those guys in France, Fourier, Owen in England. That is a dream. You see, real socialism is not that dream. It is a science. Hence, the bond between science and practical activity, between theory and practice, their unity should be guiding the star of the party of proletariat. And what is that? It is praxis. Praxis. That is praxis. So further, if nature being the material world is primary, very, very serious. Our consciousness, be careful, read that attentively. Our consciousness, thought is secondary, derivative. What is the most important is not my thought, it is matter. In my thought is the reflex of matter. If the material world represents objective reality existing independently of the consciousness of man, it follows that the material life of society is also primary, and its spiritual life is secondary, derivative. Remember what we studied, the charter I gave you. Superstructure is based on the infrastructure. The infrastructure, the economy, the matter produces the superstructure. The superstructure is the fruit that reflects the consequence of the infrastructure, the matter. So here, in fact, the first reality is not the human thought, it is the economy, it is production. Be careful. Now for Karl Marx, economy is production. Economy for us is make the money of the rich develop. For them, economy is production. So the production is not the fruit of your. If you want, what is first is not the thought of the worker, is the work of the worker. And the work of the worker, economy, production, produce your way of thinking. For us, our way of thinking influence our way of living, no? For them, it is my way of working, economy, producing, for my work, my way of thinking. I don't know if you realize the extreme importance of that difference. We are the puppet, if you want, we are conditioned, we are made by our environment. There is a part of truth. Not everything is false in that. But we can influence our environment. For Marx, we are the fruit of our environment, of material condition, of economy. Okay? It is true that even in the United States, in America, in Canada, in Western world, our environment influence our way of thinking, no? When you look at television, you look at people are influenced by their environment, by the comfort, etc. For that is an idea here adapted by Marxism. But why we have that even in capitalism? Because capitalism, like Marxism, both are determinist. Both affirm that a society is the fruit of economy of production. You know, there are many resemblances between the two systems, many. I continue the text. Hence, next paragraph, hence, the source of formation of spiritual life, the origin of social idea, etc., the political institution, or the superstructure, is not coming from the mind of man, but they are the condition of material life. It is material life that produces art. It is material life that means economy, that is production, produce philosophy, produce the law, etc. All those are the product of matter. You know, it is not the mind of man who transforms matter, it is matter who forms the mind of man. Materialism approach, okay? And if you say that by freedom, where is freedom? We are like a puppet because we are determined by material condition, material production. Okay? At the bottom of page 5, last paragraph, you go to the third line. But on the contrary, so activity are not based on principle of human reason for proletariat, but on the concrete condition of material life in society as determining the force of social development.
In fact, all society is built, is moved by the force of production. In fact, the first reality, the moving is not the capital, is not the money, it is the work, the workers. And that is interesting. You know why? Look at China. 50 years ago, China was considered as a country of the third world. And nobody invested in China for 50 years. And China became one of the most important power in the world in 50 years under communist regime. We cannot say money make the country. What made the country? The workers. Of course, 60 million died, but that is not a problem. No? Now we have to think about that. They were third world. I remember when I was a kid, I was 10 years old, we gave 25 cents to buy a little Chinese. Today that cost $35,000 to buy a little Chinese. They were the third world. And now they are on the same level almost as the United States. The difference, they have 3 times more people than we have here. That makes us reflect. There is a large part of truth in Marxism. Not everything is wrong. You know, the theory 50 years ago was saying capitalism produces richness, wealth, and communism make people poor and poorer. Russia was very poor in 1917. And Russia is now a very important power in the world. They were the first to send men into space. I don't want to offend capitalist conviction, but it's a fact. Why our countries are prosperous? Why Henry Ford was able to become a billionaire? Because he had workers. He had no worker, he will stay with his gold, he will die with his gold. Gold by itself produces nothing. Gold produces something because of the worker. It is a very important intuition of Karl Marx. We must recognize that. The proof of that, a poor country, is able to become rich by the work of his citizen. And the proof of that is South Korea. South Korea was a very retarded country 50 years ago. China is a proof of that. South Korea is capitalist, but China is communist. But both start from very low. South Korea is a real miracle at an economic point of view. It was a very low country, and now it is very important. Who possesses Samsung in the class here? Oh, interesting. I make you to reflect on that because sometimes we have a very narrow idea about Marxism. We have to understand why China, why Russia, they developed. And communism was a factor of development in Russia. We must recognize that. The life of the farmer before and after is not the same. Of course, we don't accept the means. The end does not justify the means. But we must recognize there is a material change, a real material change. Okay? Now we go to the third part on the historical materialism. I mean, how we can apply the Marxism, the theory of Marx, to economy, to history. So I will find my places here. Okay. First, the theory many times says that the history of a country depends on the geography of the country. For example, he will say the Greek, they became intellectual, they became merchant because you see Greece is only a country of mountains. The ground, the soil that can be cultivated in Greece is very, very, very little. So because of that, they have to find a way of living. So they exported their ideas, their techniques, and they become merchant. It's the same for Phocian. Phocian are the ancestor of the Lebanon. Lebanese are little, but if you go to Africa, you go to South America, you will see how Lebanese, they are important in economy. The little country, so that is a theory. This thing, the people are influenced by their geographic milieu. But Marx, he does not agree with that. You say, what makes a country is not the geography, is not the population, it is the force of production. The mode of production and the force of production. What is the mode of production? Well, the mode of production, they are the machine, the technique, and they are the workers. In fact, what makes economy progress is the fact you have machines. For example, at the beginning of the 19th century, the discovery of the steam changed completely the economy, the force of production, and also changed the workers. So both the machine and the worker. Who built the machine? The technician, the engineer. No? So the force of production are there. In communist country, they insist a lot on technician, no? Engineer. For example, you go to, if you look at the history of USSR, Russia, they attach a great importance to the engineers and to the workers, because they are the force of production. The engineers are those who make machines, make machine work, and the workers are there to use those machines. And they are the real force of production. So the economy of a country is based on that. There is no problem of capital for Marxism. Why? What is the reason they are not preoccupied by capital? Capital belongs to the state. The capital, the means of production belong to the state. So the problem is not in the investment of capital. The problem is to have good engineer and good worker. And they will make the thing will function with that, you know. And that is the mentality. So the chief determinant are the mode of production. We need production to eat. The first are the farmers. And in fact, in communist country, especially in Russia, they reorganize the farmer, they create kolkhozes, kind of commune, and they obtain great result. Of course, sometimes they destroy nature, but in fact, you know, they were not able to answer all the need of the population before, on the time of Tsar, and after they have what they need. Okay, so production of food. So we must have the mean to survive. Not only the mean to survive, the mean to progress, and the mean also to defend oneself against the other. And that is the reason why in communist country, like capitalist country, they have a powerful army. No? Yeah, a part of that is both sides. Both sides. You know, when I tell you communism and capitalism are twin brothers. They have a lot of similarities, a lot of similarities. Why? Because on both sides they are human beings, no? And human beings, you have the same passion, the same greed, the same instinct of domination. You know, it's not because I am a communist, I am a saint. No corruption. Corruption exists in China, exists in the United States also. Okay? So the productive force are, in fact, what? The instrument of production and the worker. So when we speak about the force of production, we have the instrument, the machine, and we have the worker. And it is that those instrument and worker that make economy functioning, production. Because when they speak about production, they speak about economy. In capitalist country, we speak about economy. In communist country, we speak production. But what is economy? It is production, no? Consumption is the same. The same thing on both sides. But one insists more on an aspect, the other insists more on the other aspect. But under the suit, the dress, there is the same reality. Human being. And human being wanted to be rich, human being wanted to dominate, human being wanted to... the same passion on both sides. Greed exists everywhere. Instinct to dominate exists everywhere. So what makes... what is the prime first reality is the primacy of economy. Why? Because what is changing a country, what is making the progress of a country, it is the mode of production. The mode of production. That means the instrument, the industry. What is the instrument in economy? Is the industry and the worker. In our Western world, we say the first is investment, capital. So now we understand why there is not a problem for Marxists, for communists, because the capital is in the hand of the state. Because the difference between, it is the private property of mineral production. That's the characteristic of capitalism. The common property of mineral production is communism. But in both cases, they have to produce. In both cases, they need money. The money on one side comes from some individual. The money on the other side comes from the group, that means the state. And both are to use tools. Both are used to workers. But the accent in one side is insisted more on economy. For example, when you look at channel 22, I think, they speak about the economy. No, 24, economy. It is rare they speak about the worker. But if you go to communist country, they speak about the worker. But in fact, we have no economy without worker, and no worker without economy. They are together. But the accent is not the same. The insistence on one side is individual, on the other side is common. Communism, common. But be careful, that does not mean that in communist country, people cannot possess. I discovered that in 1972 when I was in Moscow. We talked with the people, and I learned, at my great surprise, that they were banks, and they were able to capitalize their money, put their money in the banks. And the proof of that, 1990, when communism fell down, we have not only millionaire, we have billionaire. We have Putin and other one. And they were member of the KGB, member of the Communist Party. And they were able to capitalize. And suddenly, in a few days, they became capitalists. Is it a spontaneous generation? No. In communist country, they capitalize also. In Vietnam, I'm sure they do that. I don't speak about religious community. Okay. So and after that, the change of development of production. When the development of mode of production change, the society changes. What makes a society change is, for example, in 1950, there was no computer. People work with their pencil, with their little rule. Now they discover, after that, calculator. Computer became very simple, 64 kilobytes. It was a marvel. And after that. So that changed life, no? Economy, it changed because the mode of production are changed. Imagine at the beginning of the 19th century, the most important source of energy was steam. And after that, about the mid of 19th century, they discovered oil. And oil was used to produce energy. And after that, nuclear power. You know? So that changed. That is a reality. And the social life depends on the mode of production. But what we may not forget, who made those modes of production? Mother? Mind of man. Finally, man is always the boss. But he will say no, because your mind is only your brain, and your brain is only matter. Therefore, your good ideas are matter. They cannot go outside of that. Why? Because there is only one reality, matter. But in fact, when you think about that, if the mode of production change, it is not because of the matter, it is because of the thinker. But of course, Karl Marx cannot accept that. Marxism will not accept that. We depend on the matter. Everything must be explained through matter. So great men like, for example, Charles de Gaulle, Winston Churchill, all those men, they have no influence. The real influence was the worker in England. I'm not sure. Some men in the history of the world, they have a great, great influence. Okay. Now, the next one, the use of production forces. So the new force, what is the future of a society? It is the proletariat. It is the worker. In fact, if you study attentively Marxism, especially at the beginning of Marxism, it was a kind of mysticism. I will say the mystic of work, the mystic of the worker. Because, you know, it is a revolution. Before, it was the capitalist. You know, we have a book here called, what is the name of that? For the very rich people.
Entrepreneur.
No, there is a book, every year they publish that. It's a record of all the billionaire.
Forbes? Is it Forbes?
Forbes, exact, Forbes. Forbes book. But when I was in Russia in 1972, we enter villages, towns, you have big billboard with the picture of the best worker. So they judge the value of a man to his work. In Forbes book, we judge the value of a man according to his wallet. It's two different, huh? It's interesting. I was surprised because I thought I was in the first primary school. Huh? In my school, when somebody was good, he put his picture or his name, you know, he gave a medal. Huh? For 2, 3, we have to wear that for 2, 3 days. After that, the teacher did that, put that another. But for them, the mother, that's the part, the mother of economy is worker. In fact, who is the worker? Is a man. Capitalist also is a man. No? So you see the difference between them. There is a lot of difference, but there are also a lot of similarities. Huh? So in the next class, I will compare both systematically, and I will use some text so you can prepare the teaching, for example, of the church about Marxism, communism. Okay. Be good workers. Change the